Biz Buzz with Heather and Sean. I'm Heather, this is Sean, and we're here with a special guest today. So, as you know, throughout our journey thus far in the Biz Buzz, we have been chatting about strategy and vision and project management and change management. And we thought what better to talk about next is transition. So career transitions, transition into leadership, or transition within your organization, transition to entrepreneurship. So we have a special guest, like I mentioned, leadership coach with us, Laura Shepard. And Laura is a seasoned leadership and transition coach and also a fractional CMO. She's dedicated to helping both individuals and businesses navigate change with clarity, strategy, and confidence to unlock full potential. As a leadership coach, Laura empowers professionals like me and Sean to trust their leadership, step into their leadership roles with confidence, and redefine success in their own terms. And I love that about you, Laura, redefining success. We all need to take a look at what our definition of success is. So for small businesses, medium-sized businesses, Laura really delivers that strategic business plans rooted in analysis. Through personalized one-on-one coaching, clients get the mindset and strategies they need to thrive in times of change. So Laura, thank you for bringing your industry knowledge with us, with your results-driven approach to our transformation conversation today.
Welcome, Laura.
Thank you. Thank you both.
All right. We're happy to have Laura as our first guest.
Yes.
Yes. And we're going to jump right in. So Laura, talk to us a little bit about why people hesitate initially to make career or leadership transitions.
Sure. But first, thank you both for having me as your first guest. I'm super excited and grateful to have to be here. So thank you for that. And to why people hesitate for change. It's really change. And in career, leadership, whatever change it is, the biggest challenge that I have seen with clients is it's really people are comfortable in being uncomfortable. So they know there's something more. They know that they want to shift. They know that there's something out there, and yet it's hard, right? It's really hard to make change because what if you fail? And the other thing is that people don't realize is like, what if you succeed? They're scared of both. It's like, I've been through it. I'm sure you guys have been through it in your different transitions, right? It's like, it's easier to be uncomfortable in somewhere you know versus make the step to change in something that's unknown. So that's the biggest reason that I've come across with most of my clients. And it's trying to help them get to that place where it's okay to take risk and helping them define what that risk is for themselves.
The devil you know versus the devil you don't, right?
True. So true. And it's like we're in a world of high-paced craziness, right? And it's like you're going with your day-to-day. Everybody has so much going on in their lives, whether it be with family, career, caregiving, all sorts of different roles we all play. And it's hard to add one more thing to your plate to that says, well, I know I want something different, but it's going to take work to do that, and I just can't do it. So it's helping people find the capacity and the confidence to do what they want to do.
Yeah, I really like your statement around being comfortable with the uncomfortable because it is becoming uncomfortable. There is a certain security blanket having a regular 9 to 5 job, you know what you're doing Monday to Friday, and you get paid, right? There is a security in that. When you branch out on your own, you don't know if you're going to get paid. And as I was saying to somebody before, sometimes it's feast or famine. And the famine is very uncomfortable mentally. So completely understand what you're saying.
But it's very interesting. We think we're secure in those jobs and we feel like we are secure, but we've all experienced this, that stuff happens and stuff changes. So that could be gone tomorrow. So,
100%.
In that transition to maybe entrepreneurship, at least your feast or famine depends on you in most cases, not always, but in most cases, it depends on, the network you can build, the work that, and the offers you can make and all those different things, where in, a corporate setting, that doesn't depend on you. You could potentially still be a rock star and that security is not there. So it's out of your control, where, making a transition to entrepreneurship maybe is a little more in your control.
Absolutely. And just building on that, it's that control factor. You're always in control of your own choices. You're always in control of your own life. Whether you're an employee in corporate or anywhere, or you're an entrepreneur, it's the choices that you make, conscious choices that you make towards your goals, the little steps. And it plays a role whether you're corporate or entrepreneurship, because like you said, Heather, we think corporate jobs are secure, and yet look at the world around us, everything that happens, all the layoffs, all the change that happens. And it's like, it doesn't mean you need to shift to entrepreneurship. You could still shift to another corporate job. And it's making those proactive, conscious choice to set you up for success no matter what happens, so that you're ready for things for the unknown to happen.
It's funny. I was on LinkedIn this morning, and there was a picture somebody posted, and they posted a blurb too. I didn't read through the blurb, but the picture was a big circle with dreams and a very small circle within that for your comfort zone.
Mm.
And so many of us have big dreams for ourselves, for our careers, whatever the case might be, and yet our comfort zone is not as big as our dreams. You know, there was another one that talked about, I guess it's a valley in between, and somebody has vision and they've got massive amounts of capability, but it's the perseverance to work towards that vision and take those leaps of faith that makes some people successful versus some people don't.
Yes. And what just two things triggered in my mind when you said that your comfort zone is smaller than your dreams. And I like thinking about not getting out of your comfort zone, but let's expand our comfort zone. Let's make our comfort zone bigger. And it doesn't mean taking a massive leap off a cliff. It means it means doing the little things that are hard, but it's the little things done consistently is what starts to expand our comfort zone. And then you're looking around going, oh, wait, I can do that. This is so much easier than I thought it was going to be. Right. And so it's not about getting outside, it's about expanding. Heather, you're going to jump in there?
I think that's great, and this leads very well into like what types of skills that professionals need to develop as they transition, because I think, this is huge. And sorry, I want to say something here. I love pushing people a little bit further out of their comfort zone. And, one example I have was I have a girlfriend who recently, got divorced, and she came and visited me on a trip by herself. And I don't think she had ever traveled by herself. And when she got here, she was like, well, I could do that. That was easy, and just like having someone encourage you to have the strength. You have the strength. You can do this. I'll give you the instruction and you can do it. And once they do it, that light that goes off when they build that confidence or expand that comfort zone a little. And sorry, I'm going into like next question, but it just excites me. So I think, Laura, that is really a great question to say, what types of skills do we need to develop to be able to help us transition successfully, whether it's into leadership, entrepreneurship, another job? What are some of those skills?
Great question, and I love your friends. I love helping people expand as well. It's amazing. That it's powerful, right? It's rewarding and it's powerful to open up someone's world to a little bit bigger piece, to see that there's more out there. So that's what I live for. But the skill set that people need to transition into leadership or entrepreneurship or whatever transitions you need, it's foundational. Starts foundationally with awareness, and it's awareness of yourself. Really, it's like people think leaders do this, leaders do that, leaders eat last, which is awesome. Love Simon Sinek. But the foundation is knowing who you are. So it's actually taking a deep dive into yourself and your awareness. What are your core values that you want to live by, that you want to live life? What's important to you? Really understanding what's important to you and how you are living that in your life currently. And if there's a mismatch between those, it's like, okay, that's an area. It's exciting. It's an opportunity of how do I build that area, that value more like if it was adventure that you wanted in your life and you're not living adventure, you're feeling like I'm stuck, I'm not doing anything. and you want to transition and have more adventure in your life, which could be entrepreneurship or a new role in corporate. It's about, what does adventure mean for you? How are you living it? And expanding the possibilities. So it's foundational awareness. It's kind of like defining things for yourself of what they mean, so that you can then look at it and say, right, I'm not doing that. And adventure could mean I'm just going to go out and listen to new podcasts that I've never listened to, right? It doesn't have to be this big, massive change. It's like defining what your values are, what they mean to you, and then taking smaller steps towards them is the foundational skill building in order to start really living into what you want and who you are. And that opens up your comfort zone to say, yeah, I could do this and I can do that. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. I think the other thing people need to start doing is remember that old saying, dress for the job you want, not necessarily for the job you have. And I think a lot of people, going back to comfort zone, this is the job I have, and these are the things that I do day to day. And as long as I do this, everything will be okay. And you want the other job, but you're so scared. And sometimes it's fear of failure. Other times it's fear of maybe my leadership is not going to appreciate me stepping out of my box, because some organizations are like that.
Uh-huh.
And so I think if people are able to step out of the box, right, and start to look at what other leaders are doing. So being self-aware, 100%. You need to understand who you are as an individual. You also need to understand where you want to go as an individual and the things that you need to do to get there. And then to your point, you need to start putting those things into practice, right? So if you're able to do those things, little bits, incremental to your point, Laura, then I think people start building those skills without realizing that they're building the skills, right? Heather, you
Absolutely.
talked about your friend making the trip down. It's a little thing, but sometimes it can be so crippling. And a lot of people feel crippled by the fact that there is this fear of the unknown. But the little things, those little baby steps, help get us to the end of the journey.
Yeah, well, that's where. Sorry, Heather. Sorry, that's where it's the what you guys said in your podcast on project management, which resonated with me this week, because I've been living this and forgetting this and reminding myself all the time. Start with the end in mind, and it's the vision. What is your vision? It's sort of, so to me, the vision starts with who are you first, as the foundational building that awareness, and then okay, where do you want to go? Like you said, what is that vision? And then it's just there. Okay, that gives you your compass point. That gives you your direction. And then you set the mini goals along the way, right? The mini milestones that you want to get to. And it's critical, like you said, baby steps. It's like 1%, do 1% more every day towards your goal. It's baby steps done consistently over time gets you to where you want to go. And it also allows you don't have to take the massive step, because you may miss something that will add value to your journey or change your journey because you see something different, which is fascinating. Because the goals are just sort of mile markers, they're direction placeholders to give to, that you can work towards. As you
Exactly.
start getting towards those goals with those baby steps, things will start opening up and you see different possibilities. And then you go, oh, can I go this way or can I go that way? Like, will my path? And you can then consciously choose, this was my goal. I'm going to now go this direction because this is where I want to go because of all I've learned along the way. I may still get back to that original goal, but I want to take this side journey, or I want to change my direction. But it's all about starting, and starting's the hardest part, right? It's vision and starting.
Nice. And Laura, this brings us back to one of the previous podcasts we had done around planning, right? And why planning is important, but that your plan can look like a road trip, and maybe you take a wrong turn and then it takes you somewhere else. And then, oh goodness, okay, now am I going to get back to my original plan, or am I going to adjust my plan and make a new plan? But it's having those mile markers and those points documented to say, okay, where did I go off track? Did I go off track for a reason? Do I need to come back, or has that changed? So it's funny that we're talking about this in career transitions, and we were talking about it having plans in projects, because it does all kind of give the same idea. You need something to work towards, but that doesn't mean it's steadfast. It can change, it can evolve, it can stop, it can start. So I love that. I love that connection that we can make, why that having goals and making those plans is important to give us some direction and guidance, but start with the end in mind. What leader do we love? What values do they have? What traits do they have that I want to emulate? And how am I going to get there? For example.
Yeah.
It also talks to, when you make those detours, it talks to a bit about resilient and navigating changes in your career and where things go. Because, and I don't know about you, but certainly for me, when I decided to leave corporate life and start my own thing, it was very scary, very daunting. But then as I started to talk to different people who were in similar situations like yourselves and others, there's so much that you learn, one about yourself, to your point, Laura, but also about others. Every opportunity, every diversion in the road is an opportunity to learn a lesson about yourself mostly, but also it opens up new doors, as Heather said. And all of those things may give you those opportunities to rethink and recalibrate your right. If you think of the corporate world, Canada and US are going into a bit of a trade war. Well, that changes things for businesses as well. And so businesses have to recalibrate. So if large organizations and governments have to recalibrate strategies, then we too, as individuals, if we're transitioning, whether it's within an organization or outside of an organization, we need to take those opportunities, right? So every challenge creates some opportunity. So I'll take this question to you, Laura, which is, what tricks and tips have you seen, advise people on to navigate challenges in their careers, and to push past those?
Great question, and I love what you said, because my philosophy is every failure or misstep is just a learning opportunity. Failure is feedback. And so the tips and tricks that I use is, it's like stop, like breathe. That like this is where it goes back to knowing who you are and what you want, having the vision and the plan, but also taking action, because plans are good, only as good as the actions you take. So you can make the best plan going and it could sit on the shelf and do nothing, and you can spend your time like, I've done the plan, great. Now you have to work the plan. And so the tips and tricks are, start small. Start small. What is the easiest, smallest thing that you can do that is a step that's in alignment towards your goal? And then it's, what's the next best thing I can do? And it's like, because people can get into overwhelm, right? So it's the little tiny steps that you take, and asking yourself, what's the next best step? Because often we'll go down rabbit holes. It's like, okay, this part of my project, this is what I'm going to do. And I've got like 20 items on this to-do list on this one project. And I have another project that's bigger, that's just as important. And like, you've got 5 buckets of, project content that's important. Each of them have 20 steps, and you pick one and you start going down the list. And because that's easier, it's sort of like, I can do this, I can do the next step. But halfway down the list is not important as starting the next one. So it's kind of like looking across your project list of to-do, of change, whatever that transition and change is, and having your priorities down the list, but then choosing the next best one across, not necessarily down. And sometimes it means, okay, I'm going to spend time and do the next 10 things on this list because they're easy and it feels good to check it off. And that's okay. But don't get down the rabbit hole of, okay, I'm feeling busy versus productive, right? And so for me, I'm always asking myself, what's the next best thing I need to do that's in alignment towards my goals? Not the easiest thing. What's the next best thing to do? And that's been game changer for me and for some of my clients. It's like, oh, right, because it's so easy to do what makes us feel like we're being busy instead of productive.
And I do think there's value in hiring someone like Laura, or, in my previous, when I was thinking about making the transition, I had a coach that I worked with as well. And it's a little bit of that accountability partner, right? Some of us have a hard time working through that plan on our own. And there's nothing wrong with having an accountability partner to hold you accountable to making those little steps and those little changes, because some people need that support, right? Maybe it's not a hired coach. Maybe it's, a friend or a business partner or someone that can actually hold you accountable to, your goals as you're moving through the transition. Because entrepreneurship, for example, can be hard and it can be lonely. So if we have someone in our corner helping us, or, maybe you're trying to make a job change in your corporate, is your partner helping you? I would say your partner, it could be anybody, but, maybe your wife is your partner or your husband or your whatever, like saying, okay, let's work on resumes this weekend, or let's do this. Like there's always value in leaning on others as well to support you in those challenging times, because we cannot work in a silo. We're not meant to work in a silo. It takes a village.
It takes a village. It takes a team, right? And the one thing, as you said that, Heather, and picking up on what Laura said, as you work through the steps, some of the steps may feel like you failed, like you didn't get the result you wanted. And having that person in your corner to reassure you that one failure does not blow up the entire vision, right? Because sometimes it does feel like that, right? Especially when you go into entrepreneurship. It's, you knock on this door and this door doesn't open. You knock on this door and this door doesn't open. It doesn't mean you do not have, going back to value, it doesn't mean that you do not have value to offer. It just means either you have not articulated that value or demonstrated that value properly, and somebody like a coach can help you do that. Somebody like a friend or a mentor can remind you that, hey, you still have something good there, especially if you actually have a good value proposition. Those folks can help reassure you and work with you, help with you, whether it's the resume, whether it's repositioning, whatever the case might be, till you get to that place. And to have that network of people supporting you when you're on your solo journey makes it feel like you're not on a solo journey.
That's incredibly powerful, because we are meant to be in community. We are meant to ask for help. And that's leadership, whether it's corporate or entrepreneurship. It's like asking other people to help you is a sign of strength. It is not a sign of weakness. Asking for help is powerful. Knowing what you don't know is okay. Knowing when to ask, I don't know this, or say, I don't know this, and ask for help is powerful. And that is a stronger leader versus someone that thinks they know it all. And
100%.
setting up your own value proposition in entrepreneurship or in leadership roles in corporate, you want to know what your core value is you're providing. You're providing a service as an employee to your leadership. You're providing a service if you're an entrepreneur or a product. You need to understand what that value proposition to you, to Sean, to your point, is. So, and be clear on it. And it doesn't have to be, and it needs to be simple. We put too much around it. The simpler, the better. And that's the hardest thing to do. Simple, concise, and think about the value you bring to a corporation. Think about the value as an entrepreneur that you bring to your clients. And make sure that it's clear, concise, and articulated. And asking for help is powerful. We all think we can do it on our own, and we're all smart. And everyone is smart, and we're smarter together.
Nice.
I love that. We're all smarter together.
Great.
I like it.
I like to give examples in this to show where failures turned into feedback. I had, in my early career of working as an entrepreneur, I had 2 clients actually that I was really excited to get in with and be like, yes, I'm going to help them. I'm going to help them in there. And it was a failure. I felt like I was a failure. I felt like I wasn't helping. I felt like I wasn't giving the support. And they were giving me feedback that I wasn't giving them what they needed. So I was hearing it, but it really took a toll on my confidence, and it took a toll on what I thought I could do. But I had someone in my corner telling them, no, I have your back. You're doing all the right things. In the end, I realized that it just wasn't the right client for me. Their personalities, the way they worked, what they were looking for and what they needed, they were told they needed someone like me, but they really didn't see the value or believe in or understand. Even with me telling them how I could help them, there wasn't a connection there. We were not aligned. So that's where I learned that really getting solid on who I want to work with and what value. Again, it's not that they were bad people. It just, the relationship was not symbiotic there, and we weren't meant to work together at that time. It really, like I said, it took an impact on my mental health until I realized, okay, no, I can get up from this and find the right people. And I've since obviously been able to tweak the right heart-centered, people that want a partner in their business to support them. So that's a journey I can tell you about that really was a failure turned into feedback.
I love that. It's really hard to not take things personally. And that's a huge leadership skill and a huge life skill to be able to sit back and say, okay, this isn't working and it's okay. What can I do? What can I learn from this? What are my learnings? What do I need to take away from this? Right? What do I need to take away to continue to grow? It's about growing yourself. It's about expanding that comfort zone by learning what you need to learn and taking it into the next level. And the more frequently we look at it from an outside perspective on ourselves versus an internal perspective, it's kind of like, okay, if this sometimes some things what I do, it's like, okay, when that happens to me, okay, what would a friend be telling me, right? Not what I'm telling me. My friend would be a whole lot kinder to myself than what I am.
Yeah. I was going to say, this has been a wonderful conversation, and I love that we just, can flow and it goes all different ways. This is wonderful. I guess my last point is, Laura, any final thoughts you want to share with us on, navigating transitions and changes in careers? Any final thoughts you'd like to share?
I think the only final thought I'd say, I love this conversation. It's been super inspiring. And I would just say, if you're thinking about transition, if you're in the spot where that's sort of something's under your thoughts and you're thinking, oh, there's something more for me, go into that thought, go into it, explore it, see what that is. It doesn't mean giving up what you have. It means starting to explore. It doesn't have to be I'm leaping off a cliff. It has to be, how do I start figuring out what really will bring me fulfillment, what really will make change for me that I want, and starting to explore those paths so that you get more confidence and expand your comfort zone. So thank you for having me. This has been fabulous.
You're welcome. That was beautiful, Laura. Thank you. Laura, if people wanted to reach you, how would they do that?
Oh, thank you. I have a website, and my company is called North by Northwest Coaching, and it's nnwcoaching.com. And so my email and my LinkedIn. LinkedIn is probably the best place for me as well, Laura Shepard, and that's all LinkedIn through my website. So would appreciate any connections.
Nice. Yes, we will put that in the show notes for sure, Laura. All
Thank
right.
you.
Sean, any final thoughts before we go?
I thought this was a wonderful conversation, and Laura, really appreciate you joining us and giving us your thoughts on leadership. There are a few nuggets you've dropped, starting small, being comfortable with the uncomfortable. Heather, you talked about leveraging a network and doing introspection. Laura, you talked about that. You talked about being self-aware. We've talked about the vision. I think this was great. So for anybody who's looking to make a transition or in that process of transitioning from full-time corporate to entrepreneurship, or just trying to elevate your career, please reach out to any one of us. We're happy to help you, or reach out to Laura, who is a certified leadership coach, and she'll be happy to help you as well. And we look forward to the next conversation.
Awesome. Yes. Well, thank you, Laura. Thank you, Sean. And thank you all for watching, and keep the buzz going. Till next time.
Keep that buzz going. All right. Bye, guys.